Your coming was foretold, but you are decades early. How odd. I am Navali, once a Hatungo for my people, now a revenant in service of the Mother of Death. Here you shall be tested by the greatest warriors that ever lived. You will be weighed and measured on the scales of fate, and we shall determine your true worth. When you slew the beast, you ended the slumber of the gods. Hinekora is finally awake, and the halls of the dead clamor with the joyous songs of our people. You cannot possibly understand the import of this change. The greatest sum of our people, countless generations of Karui warriors, have never known their goddess. I myself have only ever spoken to her in her dreams.
Same as
To
every
hear
other
her
day down
voice
here.
is to know that every sacrifice I made for my people
Actually,
was justified.
Yes.
This is the gift that you have given us, that you have given me. Have no fear. The water of sight does not slay the living, just nearly so. You may resume your mortal life, such as it is, once you return your spirit to your body.
Even before I ventured to the Isle of the Shrikes, I knew I would earn my place here. Now I will prove my might in each new trial. I will never be deposed. This honor is mine forever. Or until time ends, as Navali claims it will one day. How absurd.
I don't enjoy fighting all that much. I just happen to be very good at it. Was given this position because I kept winning. The others get very excited for every battle, but there are parts of the Halls of the Dead I wish I could see. Supposedly, there is a place for the souls of warriors that weren't very skilled, and there they laze around in dishonor, eating, drinking, and doing whatever they want. Where would you rather be, outsider?
Today is a good day to be dead.
While I greatly enjoy advising generations of Karui that come to us for wisdom, I do wonder if the halls of the dead are a good idea in and of themselves. Inikora brings our souls
How do I
here
get to the chambers
after
of the
we die.
dishonored? I
But
should be
where
there,
do the souls of
not
other
here.
peoples go? Where would we have gone? We assume the alternative is oblivion, but nobody knows for certain. These unanswerable questions plague me at night when I am trying to sleep.
Here in the halls of the dead, we while away our days by holding grand competitions of skill and daring. You may participate in these trials, but be warned. The warriors of the Karui never hold back.
Imagine my surprise when you killed me and I found myself in this dank and dour dungeon. I didn't even know about this place.
You
I
are
grew
most
up in the
welcome
slave
here.
pens.
Tell me,
and
how
my
did you
knowledge of my
die?
own culture was fragmented at best by the hand of the same exile that recently showed out of me, and my heart stilled. I thought I was finally
I
free.
should have guessed.
No, I still
How
exist.
irritating.
Because Hinekora scooped up my soul, and they even honored me with a position here. You know what I'll be doing? Fighting, bleeding, dying, forever! I died! I'm dead! But I'm still imprisoned. This is a load of horse dung the size of Rayclast! This place will burn.
By the grace of a silver coin, you will know when the time is right to return. Thousands of years ago, Hinekora foresaw the coming time of emptiness, the slumber of the gods, and built her domain to function while she lay dreaming. Had she not done this, any Karui who died during that emptiness would have been lost forever. Her foresight guarded our people for generations.
Let Rayclast fester in the darkness. It is a diseased land, not fit for life. My advice to future generations of Karui shall always be so. Keep to the islands and their abundance. Let the ruins of the Eternal and the Vaal empires rot like the corpses they are. If Rayclass needs anything, it is fire. To burn away that which can never be pure again. Uniting the tribes was a worthy endeavor. Invading the mainland, however, was a fool's errand. Rayclass has only ever been an accursed place that no true Karui should ever step foot on.
Hinikura accepted Kaon
I wish I had known how tainted it truly was.
Furious.
I would have set fire to it rather than try to claim it. Every empire that has
Perhaps it is
ever
a chance
arisen
to
there
enact our
eventually collapsed under the weight of its own disease.
Like many others, the Karui gods have awakened. But aside from Tukuhama and Kitava, we have heard nothing of their activities. They walk Rayclass like in times of old. So, where are they? Our descendants come to us and ask us when the gods will return home. For this, we have no answer. Even Hinikura seems unwilling to speak on what she sees.
So, it's you, come to kill me again. Tough luck, since I'm already dead. Did you get yourself killed too? No, I can sense some tether to life about you. Whatever, I don't care.
We did not despise Kitava. He was a blind child,
Volcanoes
cursed with
often
endless
lie
hunger,
dormant
and he
until
knew
the
no
appointed
better.
hour.
Hinikora foresaw his fall, and we mourned his passing long ago. Hinikora made no move to prevent these events, for they had to happen so that the future could be guided down a certain path. As she spoke while in a painful trance, for Rayclass to survive, Kitava's grin must be bared to the bone.
Or if did become a dominant power, and then it got destroyed too? Rayclass is a disaster. Who's even left? The Madakath? At the very least, the lush rivers and forests of that verdant region will still carry on some form of beauty in Rayclass.
I did hear that you defeated Kitava. You should be aware that he was nothing more than a hungry, blind child, propped up and fed by Utula's tribe. How exactly did you fear that he would consume the whole world when he could hardly move from his cathedral cradle? Your great victory, Godslayer, is nothing to brag about. We have not needed our gods to be personally present for thousands of years, and we will not be diminished by their loss. We have our own strength.
You defeated Kitava, did you? Which one was that again? The hungry god? No. The god of hunger, right? There are so many Karui tribes and so many gods. We don't all share the same ones either. There are tribes in Western Hamakanui beyond Izmir with gods most of us are barely aware of.
Does anyone have
tribes are
any meat
strange.
left over from today's
And we
meal?
don't go there.
I'm still hungry.
The father of hunger may be dead, but his essence lives on in his people. I challenge my fellow Karui. How dare we accept this fate? How dare we accept these halls of the dead? We should be free to roam the world or enter oblivion if we wish. Kitava once promised to devour all the souls in this domain, and it seems I must fulfill that promise.
A blacksmith was frustrated that she could never forge the same weapon more than once. There was always a different balance or a slightly different shape. So she set about making one perfect blade. It took most of her lifetime, but
I
when
wish I
she
could
was
see the
done,
moon
she
from
placed
here.
it in a clay.
I wish
the
I could
clay
smell the
became
sea.
a mold, and from that
That
mold,
would be nice.
many perfect blades were forged.
Like Ramakor in stories, Ahwana is a ray of light in this dark place. The halls of the dead are a good thing, but the years keep passing and weigh heavily on all of us. Kahuturua was one of the first souls here, and I fear becoming like him. Right now, after only 3 centuries or so, I can still take the way seriously and uphold all of our traditions with pride. What will I be like in thousands of years? With good friends like Ahwana remaining positive, perhaps I can make it to the end with my dignity.
A great darkness fell upon an island one ill-fated season. A young woman held a torch aloft in the unnatural night, and others crawled their way to her. Along the way, they gathered sticks and branches, hoping to feed her flame. Rather than build a bonfire to be encircled by worried eyes, she had them craft torches of their own, and she shared her light. They went out into the darkness unafraid, but now they could see each other in the distance.
The Daughter of the Moon has my tribe's eternal loyalty. Alone among the gods, she has no agenda of her own. The rest all seek something endlessly. Whatever it was that gave each of them a divine spark. But Arohongui was born divine, and chose to aid the Karui people as much as she could. She did not ask us for loyalty, and that is why she has it.
Long ago, my people called me a Hatungo, yes. Now I am an interpreter of death, and a faithful servant of prophecy.
Hinikora shall always be honored as the mother of death and the creator of this place. But she rarely speaks. I believe she is lost in her visions. It is unclear how much Navali communicates with her, and how much the Hatungo is saying on her own.
The Mother of Death is all that stands between us and oblivion. Before she embraced us, those that died simply ceased to be. Now the souls of the Karui people continue on, lending their wisdom and strength to those that follow. When you slew the beast and allowed her to awaken, you did the Karui people a great service. We will weave you into the sung tales of our heroes.
Hinikora is our jailer. I imagine she had good intentions when she made this place. Preserve the souls of the Karui so that they may guide their descendants, sure. Sounds lovely. Then she went to sleep for thousands of years. All the souls of my people have been collecting here unattended ever since. That seems like a massive blunder. I don't care that she's awake now. She's hardly present. There's no way she's the same as she was, not after a sleep like that. We're stuck in a prison without a warden, and there's no way out.
My mother was a great woman, and continues to be my role model, despite her inexplicable absence here. The other chieftains often talk about her wartime acts when she fought alongside Kaum, but by the time I was old enough to know her, she had long been queen of the still united tribes. I grew up in a time of turmoil and nightmare in the wake of the cataclysm that destroyed the Eternals. Because she once helped put the men in power who likely caused it, my mother taught me that war is not the glorious endeavor our way makes it out to be. All she wanted by the end was peace. She was begrudgingly taking an army raised from multiple tribes to deal with a strange threat on the edge of Ngamakanui.
Does anyone know?
When she and her legion vanished without a trace. I did my best in the chaos that followed, but it wasn't enough.
Hyrie is not here. I hope to greet her in the afterlife, but her soul has not found its way to the halls of the dead. My tribe's Hatungo, Lavianga, believed that Hairi damned herself by breaking the Tavukai. But that is not a rule the Ramako tribe follows. I was certain there would be no dishonor in the eyes of the gods. Yet Navali remains cryptic on her absence. She should be here. I am incensed.
Yes, yes. She has a frozen heart. That's all anyone ever talks about. She's turned me down a few times, and I've gone through the traditions with everyone else here, even Rakiata. No disrespect if it moves. I'll chase it. We're all young again. Except for poor Martha. So why shouldn't we enjoy ourselves?
The afterlife is long, outsider. Think of the longest time you can remember. A winter that went on for many extra months. Or back to your childhood. That long. Then it's even longer than that. We might be dead here, but we're all still alive. Everyone here has gone through the traditions with everyone else. Some were even married for centuries. Eventually, though, time has a way of wearing everything away. You think you found your partner for eternity. Then 100 years later, you find the same thing with someone else. But not Ikiaho. Never Ikiaho. She turns down everyone, even me, and quite publicly. She has been alone all this time.
She's stronger than she knows. She doesn't need me to fight battles on her behalf, nor would she want me to. When I first arrived here, many of the other chieftains were hostile, and the most traditional among them outright rejected me. It was she who vouched for me. The opportunity to fight allowed me to prove myself, as I knew I could. And I have led Tesalio's warriors ever since. In Ikiaho, I could not have asked for a better friend. Sometimes, we even sneak out of here for a glimpse at the moon and the sea.
There exists a vast mirror in the ground. To gaze into those perfectly polished waters is to see a mortal soul with all its flaws and pains laid bare. There is wisdom and counsel to be had, but some do not survive the truth.
Tahu Turua has been here the longest of any of us, since the halls of the dead were first forged by Hinikora.
I hope you're having a
It
good time,
feels
my
strange
friend.
saying this because I look so much older, but I worry about the effect the years are having on him.
A child was throwing rocks into the sea when a great fish washed up. The fish called for aid, and the child carried it back into the water. The fish thanked him and offered to show him the world beneath
I
the
hope
waves.
you're having a good time, my friend.
The boy accepted and held on to its fin. They swam through vast coral palaces and thick swarms of iridescent life. The boy looked on with wonder, laughing all the way until he began to understand how vast the ocean truly was. He could not let go until the journey was complete, but the journey seemed to be without end. The boy no longer smiled and was forlorn ever after.
Kilowava makes grand claims about his own abilities, but he backs them up with the strength to win. I care little for bluster, so long as the warriors in these halls adhere to the way.
A gull was flying through the sky when it sighted a fish. It dove, but a larger bird snatched it out of the sea. The gull called loudly and angrily, and the larger bird dropped the fish. The gull ate well that day. It continued cawing at other birds along the shore, taking what was theirs. Eventually, it saw a great feast laid out near a fire, and it
How are you
called
doing today,
aggressively at the creature beside
Same
it.
as every other
That
day
creature
down
was
here.
a Karoi woman,
So,
far
good thing.
stronger than any bird, and she
Actually,
happily added
yes.
the gull to her feast.
He is a legendary warrior, but still new to the halls of the dead. One of the first things he did when he got here was show interest in Ikiaho, because he had heard she refuses all suitors. Surely the Great Calm could thaw this frozen heart. No. She turned him down in front of everyone during mealtime. That Calm, what an ego.
I hope you...
Palm can eat a Rumakino berry for all I care. I don't want to talk about him.
Carl mocks my peacemaking ways, but what did his warmongering earn him? Centuries of torture in a corrupted nightmare. I see no reason to quarrel with him. He already knows the truth.
When you slew Calm and freed him from his unending nightmare, you sent his purified soul to join us here in the halls of the dead. Some challenged his place here because he slaughtered his own men in life. But such is the right of a chieftain. His might and his victories speak for themselves. Thus, he has earned a place here in competition with the greatest of our warriors.
A king was given word by his spies that an attempt was to be made to usurp his throne. He did not know who was behind the plot, so he trusted only his own thoughts. He ruminated on it while he held court and began seeing dark intent in every comment, every dance, and every laugh. Whenever a shadow moved, he jumped. Whenever a friend gripped his arm, he braced for an attack. Eventually, unable to stand the tension any longer, he ordered his guards to slaughter the entire court. The king was left in a bloody throne room, alone and aghast. Without subjects, he was no longer a king, he was merely a madman.
Ah, yes. Ramako was impersonated by someone who visited Lanihua, the mother of the moon, in his guise.
When it has an
My
acorn.
ancestors suspected the truth of this immediately. Arohongui had a very strange inheritance, with abilities prone to darkness and illusions, quite unlike Ramoko's golden strength and honesty. There is a tale, very rarely told, of a deceiver being caught and locked away for this crime. Supposedly, it was the ancient elders of my tribe that enacted this justice. But we consider the matter settled. But Sione and Lanihua continue to battle for eternity in distant realms. They do not listen to us. They do not listen to anyone. All they care about is vengeance. It might be controversial in Western Ngāmakanui, but I say that the gods who forget their people are not owed our loyalty.
Many believe that the Mother of the Moon has been off fighting a war against the Mother of the Sun for thousands of years. While Lanihua is indeed absent, it is not to fight against her sister. The wounded souls from that war are sent to the Silver Palace, where Arohongui tends to them until they may rejoin the fight. Those warrior souls cry out in fear and torment as they lay in hospice. They speak not of war with Sione, but of a war with the stars themselves. They have been sworn to silence by both Sione and Lanihua. But the feverish ones cannot help but rant.
How did you die?
Apparently, the two sisters did go out into the
Exile
night
that
sky
recently
to
showed you
wage
a thing or
war
two.
upon one another. But when they
I
got
should have
there,
guessed.
they encountered something
How irritating.
horrible. Something that drives even the strongest warrior to madness and panic. We have not been abandoned by our two strongest gods. They are out there protecting us every single minute of every single day, and they cannot rest for even a moment. That's what the tales say, in any case. I don't know how much of that I actually believe.
Poor Martha. Because of his true self, he's cursed to be an old man for eternity. Hilarity.
A king and chieftain met on the battlefield, with great armies arrayed on either side. The king grinned and demanded surrender. The chieftain crossed his arms and gave no response. The king suggested that the two sides part ways in peace. The chieftain glowered and said nothing. Finally, the king begged for the chieftain to depart and offered great wealth in exchange for mercy. The chieftain touched the axe at his side, considering, but then accepted the offer. No warriors died that day, and no songs would be sung of that conflict, but a great victory was still achieved.
You must be wondering how an old man comes to find himself among these honored warriors. I practiced a very different type of combat. One that operated in ways that we Karui normally disdain. I was a diplomat, a peacemaker, and an ambassador. In contrast to the warriors around me, I brought unmatched prosperity to my tribe, not by raiding or conquest, but through cooperation. I was brought here because it is important that the young and headstrong do not forget the importance of these values. That, and I can crack a skull or two with my cane. So listen when I speak, child, or you'll get a tap.
That word, Karui, is an informal name for anyone of the blood, whether a chieftain, a child, or a kaivana. The Ngākura Makoi, however, are those who truly comprise our culture. They must be followers of the way, and they must have passed their test of adulthood at the Isle of Strikes or elsewhere. A great warrior does not have to be Karui by blood to become Ngākura Makoi. It is rare, but it does happen. I shall be watching you with great interest.
Ngā Makanui isn't a place. Not really. Makanui is our way, and Ngā means from, or of. So anywhere that our people go, mostly islands, we like to roam. That is Ngā Makanui, because we have brought our way to it. Outsiders that don't understand us often mark Ngā Makanui in a particular place on a map, but that is a mistake we don't care to correct. It is better that the Val don't know where we are. Speaking of the Val, I haven't heard anything about them in a long time. I wonder how they're doing these days.
Thousands of years before I was born, the Tukuhama tribe and the Ngā Mahu tribe were in continual conflict. A cycle of vengeance kept the two groups raiding each other, and they were beginning to lose their superior positions. There was a danger of the other tribes becoming dominant. To put an end to it, Ngā Mahu and Tukuhama went through the traditions together. Tukuhama aided her in the forging of the legendary axe, while her ring, a sign of fire and fertility, was given to us. Eventually, her ring passed down to me. Kharm took it, and my head, when he slew me in his bid to unite the tribes. It is our way, but my defeat still stings.
For countless generations, a small number of my tribe secretly watched over Ngā Mahu as she slept. She must have awoken by now, but I have heard nothing of her whereabouts or intent. It is frustrating, having to remain here in the halls of the dead, while the Mother of Fire walks the world in the flesh. I would very much like to meet her. Before I was of age, my father's father allowed me to look upon her sleeping face. It was only then that I understood that there are types of fire unknown to a mere boy.
There are few here who understand. Karui culture can often be excessively focused on having certain traits, such as strength or bravado. Certain duties are expected of each of us, whether or not we want to fulfill them. I died long before Akiata, so we never met in life. But here in the halls of the dead, They're my closest friend. In death, I actually feel understood. For that, I can never begrudge this place.
A lost sailor was adrift in stormy seas at the edge of the world, too far for Thessalia to come to his aid. He had left his home, his family, and his village, but not willingly. He held onto driftwood for a time without end, overcome with sadness. When he finally washed ashore, he staggered to the nearest village. To his surprise, they recognized him and greeted him with warmth. Looking in the river, he saw that he had a new face. Here too he had a home and a family. Indeed, he had never left at all. It was he who had never known himself.
You know what's strange? I always thought Rakiata was a man. I suppose I don't know much about my own people, beyond the remnants of knowledge the slaves passed on in Aureath's pens. Coming here, I'm furious at how much of my own history was denied me. I'm basically locked in a permanent family reunion with relatives I've never met.
Ramako is both the father of light and father of the sun. These are not the same duty. In the early days, he was just the father of light, and he brought beauty and warmth everywhere he went. The mother of the sun, Sione, lived alone in a jade palace in the sky. At that time, the sun was no brighter than any other star, and it was verdant green. Sione, however, was the most ambitious of the gods. She traded away all of her tribe's possessions to foreign cultures in exchange for gold, and she plated her entire palace with that useless but shiny material. Her tribe was on the verge of starvation, but she asked them to trust her. They put on a festival with what little they had left, and to this, Ramako was invited. In awe of the supposed wealth of Sione, Ramako accepted her invitation to go through the traditions together. Once he entered her golden palace, his light reflected countless times, blazing warmth and life all over the world. Sione's palace cyclically rose above the world, then back into it. And while it was in the sky, that time became known as day. To her credit, this shining beacon drew food, wealth, and respect to her tribe. Her gambit paid off. Ramako became the father of the sun ever after.
The Ramako tribe, like us, often uses ice and cold in their war making. That is because Ramako has long loved Lanihua, Arohongui's mother, in secret. He fights not for himself, but for her. His people do the same. I don't understand it at all, but it is what it is.
Oh, let me tell you this tale of this ancient drama. Sione is the harsh and ambitious mother of the sun, yes? Ramako is her, what is your word? Husband. Ramako can't stand her and secretly longs for Lanihua, the mother of the moon, who is kind and caring to all, and very beautiful as well. Ramako goes to our father of night, Rongokurai, and asks for the cover of darkness to secretly visit Lanihua without his wife knowing. Poor Rongo, being a good brother obliges. Ramako visits Lanihua many times until, as happens with such things, Arohongui is born. Sione becomes furious, as you can imagine. The sun becomes so bright, fire scorches the world. My tribe survives that fire easily because we tend to live in caves. But Lanihua, being a natural healer, steps in to preserve the rest of the Karui. Sione goes to war against her, and she and Lanihua have been fighting ever since. Now Ramako lives alone in his golden palace, and Arohongui tends wounded souls in the silver palace of the moon, taking care of it in her mother's absence. The most absurd part? Ramako claims it wasn't him. He calls his brother a liar. And now Ramako and Rongo don't speak. The day and the night are forever avoiding each other because the father of the sun, couldn't keep his belt tied on. Fortunately, we Karui are much more mature and responsible in modern times.
Ra Mako's brother. During the traditions, when Ra Mako first joined with Sione, Rongo Kurai came to the feast at her palace. This confused the people and the animals, as the sky became dark at strange times when Rongo Kurai's darkness dimmed the reflecting light of her golden walls. This greatly irritated Sione. There was nothing she could do. He was family. Her own sister often caused such disruptions already when that silver palace neared hers. And now Ra Mako's brother would interfere as well. She resolved to hold family gatherings as little as possible. That is why eclipses only happen every few years. The two sisters put aside their eternal war for a brief time to satisfy their traditional familial obligations. Even the gods must follow the way.
Rongo Kurai is the father of night. Many associate that with evil. Not so. The night shrouds the innocent, hiding them from those who would do harm. The night gives cover to warriors on their raids. More importantly, the night is cool, bringing relief from a hot day.
Does anyone
My
have any
armor
meat
is
left
heavy
over from
and
today's
gets
meal?
quite hot, so
I'm
I look
still
forward
hungry.
to the sunset. It's the little things.
Desalio has never spoken to me directly. I think I hear his influence in the waves and the wind over the ocean. I found a ring on the shore one day, bearing his graven pattern. It had washed up from the ocean, and I still believe it was a gift from him. It had a great power within it, but I never used it. I didn't need to. There were no problems I could not face with my own strength and cunning.
The ancient tafukai against the use of projectile weapons is not a rule that applies to us. It was a matter of pride for those tribes that lauded brutish men with large axes. The Ra Mako tribe prefers to fell warriors like that with well-placed arrows, long before their axes ever come close.
I don't know what to make of the Hinekora tribe. They have always lived halfway in death and halfway in life. Their eyes are elsewhere, and their words are meaningless. They have some kind of strength, but I don't know what to make of it. And I certainly don't feel they are passing down any wisdom to their descendants when they speak in riddles. Maybe it's just the particular warriors here. I can't imagine their children talking in prophecies and enigmas.
It's funny, outsider. We think we get to choose who we fight. Tafanuku already knows ahead of time what we'll do, mostly. If you fight her, it's because she's chosen to fight you. That doesn't mean she'll win, though. Even Hinekora's vision isn't infallible.
The Jester seeks to trip the chieftain. Not so. A chieftain always knows where she stands.
Tafor is the son of the forest, and its father. His alone is the perspective of the ages, of centuries of life, growth, death, and decay. We exist within a grand cycle, one that extends far beyond the outcomes of petty battles or even great wars. Tafor stands apart from all of this, aiming not for any grand goal, but simply to teach. That is why he gifted us with the ability to dream, so that we may see beyond ourselves. Inner peace can only be attained by accepting that life and death are inevitable. You, young one, do you wish to waste away your time fighting here in the halls of the dead? Or do you want to live what time you have left to the fullest? Only you know the answer.
You have wounded us, outsider. Though he has slept for thousands of years, Tukuhama plays a very real role in our cultural and spiritual lives. He helped create the way. And he set the Ngā Kuramakoi on the
How are you
proper
doing
path.
today, Koko?
With the defeat
Same
of our
as
God,
every other
my
day
tribe
down
will
here.
suffer a mark of shame
So, good then.
and a spiritual restlessness
Actually,
that I cannot
yes.
overstate. I understand why you did what you did, and I will try to remain fair to you, but I am not certain I can ever forgive what you've done. Now Utula has been accepted here, and his fiery words make me wary. I believe in the traditional and unchanging way, but Utula wants to tear it all down. I fear he is seeking to fulfill Kitava's vow. We must show him how wrong he is.
Utula has the right idea. Why should we Karui listen to everyone who tells us what to do and how to live? We have such strength, yet we remain subservient. If I want to leave the halls of the dead and go to the chambers of the dishonored, where they drink and carouse for eternity, why shouldn't I? Down with tyranny!
He's an odd tuatara, that one. Seems to think this incredible place is some sort of prison. I, for one, relish being in my prime again. Maybe he's just angry he's got those crazy bug eyes.
Utula believes in everything I have fought against my entire life. And my entire death. His is an ethos of violence, depravity, and anarchy. I believe the Karui deserve order, harmony, and peace.
The chipmunk
You
chips
can't
it
live in a
ceaselessly
beautiful
when it has
forest
an
if you burn
acorn.
it down. I understand why Utula was given a place here. But I still think it is a step in the wrong direction.
When you slew Utula's body, you separated his spirit from his altered flesh. This freed him to join us as a purified soul in these halls of the dead. We are very grateful to you for this, as he is a true hero in our eyes. He brought Karui vengeance against the Templars, and helmed a rebellion that freed our people held in bondage in Oriath. He has earned a place here in competition with the greatest of our warriors.
A greedy farmer once piled hay during a bountiful summer. Ramako's lights and Valako's rains were given in equal measure. The farmer believed it would always be so. Thus he harvested all that grew within his sight and gathered it near his home. When the rains withdrew and the land became dry, a stray spark from his hearth burned it all down.
Oh, you've heard of my father? I've never met him. My mother only rolled her eyes whenever I asked about him. She told me of him once, the night before she left on her final campaign. She said he spoke with a poet's grace and made myriad boastful promises, but his heart truly belonged to a dead woman. He remained in San when she took our people home, so he must have died in the cataclysm. I would very much like to know more about him.
I have a complex relationship with Valako. I speak to him, and he remains silent. It's just like my last wife. I joke. But we're alone. The Karui must forge their own path in this world. Valako is more like our tribe mascot than an actual figure of leadership or aid. Many think I was defeated by Kalm in some grand battle. When I was 74 when he took my head, he essentially bullied an old man. Can you picture my delight when I awoke here in my prime? I know that I give you lots of, what do they say, shite. Yes. But I'm just overcome with joy at being young and strong again. No harm meant. Oh. And I'm one of the lucky ones. Here, our souls appear as we truly see ourselves. Some of us had some pretty big surprises when they woke up in the halls of the dead.
I died in childbirth, which is considered a warrior's death. I died knowing my daughter would live on. Then, because I was here, I was able to see her grow and thrive. She visited me for advice often, and I treasure those memories. Now she fights as one of my own in these halls. Among others, her daughter and her daughter's daughter also joined us. We now have dozens of descendants coming to us for wisdom. Life and death are strange partners. I have been here for far longer than I was alive, and my extended family only knows me as an ancestral spirit.
My battle with Calm began at sunrise. Our warriors were assembled on either side, ready to slaughter each other, but neither of us gave the sign. By dawn's light, we fought on the sand,
answers
axe
still
against
no,
axe.
Kahu.
Calm was strong, but arrogant,
just being friendly.
which showed through in his fighting style. When he overextended himself, I made him pay for it in blood. However, his greater strength kept me on the defensive. Every hour, the Hatungo called a truce, and we drank, ate, and were tended to. By nightfall, Calm and I were moving like turtles, guarding ourselves behind our axes and taking only the most calculated movements. Eventually, he overextended again, and I dealt him a heavy wound to his chest. But this was an acceptable sacrifice he had made on purpose. He broke my knee with the end of his axe handle, and that was it. He gave me a warrior's death rather than leave me broken on the sands. I would not have had it any other way.
Don't you know it's rude to ask a man about his death?
Alone among the warriors here, I lived my full life and died of old age. I consider it a mark, not of cowardice, but of a master strategist who was never defeated.
A traveler was walking through a sparse grove. He encountered Tafua, who was sitting and meditating. The traveler quietly joined him for a time, watching a seed fall from above and grow into a mighty oak over the course of a century. That oak dropped its own seed, and another titan grew. Eventually, a vast forest emerged around them. Tafua opened his eyes and asked if the traveler understood. He replied that he did. Save for one thing, some seeds fell but never grew at all. At this, Tafua looked past him. Hinekora was walking the same path. She picked up each seed that never became more and carried them with love in a bowl formed from her dress. The traveler...
We all seem neatly divided into our tribes here, but it isn't so. Warriors switch tribes all the time due to marriage, chieftain successions, or simple wanderlust. We Karui are a nomadic people, in the physical and spiritual sense. When I call my tribe the Valako tribe, yes, we are. But at one time we followed Tukahama, and at another, Teselio, and then Valako again before that. Essentially, each god must prove themselves to us the same way we prove ourselves to each other. If a tribe falls on hard times, clearly their god has failed them, and it may be time for another.
Forget the rules!
We can also call
Let us
upon
revel
any god
in
we
blood
wish at
and
any time,
madness!
so long as we're in good standing as a warrior. Basically, it's like children running amok around the campfire.
You've never even heard of the Keltu? I give up. Nothing makes sense anymore, and Rayclast is apparently a cursed wasteland that only leads to oblivion.
The Kaltu? I vaguely recall hearing about them once as a child, but they were long before my time.
I have already proven that the Karui way is the one true path. I united the otherwise squabbling tribes into one mighty horde, the greatest the world has ever known, and I did that with the sheer force of my axe. There are chieftains among us here that experienced that firsthand. They know not to challenge me. The outsider walks among us. You should know that as well.
The way means nothing to me. Where were my fellow Karui tribes when we prisoners were rotting in slave pens since the time of Lion Eye? I guess nobody was very interested in rescuing us. What does all that strength matter if it only benefits the strong? I was born into slavery. I never had a choice. I refuse to continue being a prisoner in my own afterlife.
The dead echo
They
with
call
battle,
me the
but in our
first
hearts
herald of
there is
war.
peace.
And indeed I was, but they don't understand. Valakor gave a sign to my people thousands of years ago. A ring with his graven pattern. It passed down from chieftain to chieftain in my tribe. When I put it on, it did something it never had before. It surged with the power of the storm. Valakor didn't know me. How could he? The gods were asleep. So I appointed myself the Herald of War. And I used the power of Valakor's sign to win many great battles. I laid the foundations for Karui unification before calm was even an urge in some bastard's loins.
Ramakor's claim that someone impersonated him and visited with Lanihua in his guise may be true. We follow Arohongui with utmost loyalty, but my tribe certainly noticed that she never expressed any divine abilities having to do with light or warmth. When tending wounded warriors, she would often give them visions of beautiful landscapes and shining waters to help calm them. When tending the dying, she gave them visions of their family, until the spirits of their ancestors truly greeted them here in the halls of the dead. These are acts of mercy and kindness, but they are not powers of the sun or the moon. I have long suspected that there is something within each of us, some pattern or essence of who we are, that each parent passes down to a child. If my suspicion is correct, then it is not possible that Ramakor is Arohongui's father. There is only one sensible conclusion, and that we keep to ourselves, so as not to disrupt the balance of the skies.
After my mother's disappearance, the tribes began to fracture. I tried to take on the role of queen, but inheriting such a title felt a bit too much like monarchy and empire, and the other tribes weren't receptive, not after their experiences battling the Eternals. So I used what meager power I had to suggest a new form of united government, a council of chieftains. From the trickle of news we get through living Karui that come to us for guidance,
Cryptic woman.
I
Are you
hear that
calling
some
me
form
fat?
of that is still going on. I'm rather proud of that.
You defeated Tukohama in battle? No. You defeated a shadow of the Father of War. He was weakened by his long sleep, or by the pervasive corruption of Rayclast. You struck when he was
running.
feeble and
This is a sacred
confused.
place.
Keep your ego small. Perhaps I could be the next Father of War. If such a thing is possible.
How is it that a mortal defeated our Father of War in his domain? No, it was not solely you. Your alliance with the Thief of Virtue is a ghastly one. However, your prowess in combat cannot be denied. You have earned our respect, not our ire, for this victory. Such is our way.
They never stop asking. How arrogant. Even if we remain here for 10,000 years, I will never go through the traditions with them. I will participate in the battles because I enjoy fighting. But this is their culture. They seem unaware that I do not intend to fit their expectations. My heart warms for no one. I do not know what love is. Only that it motivates others to act like fools and monsters, depending on their inclinations. Perhaps I do have a frozen heart, but that That doesn't mean I feel nothing. Their words still hurt me. Perhaps even more than their weapons.
Certain arrogant warlords claim my bloodline was ended. But they don't know just how many children I really had. I was something of a madman in my prime. Half the warriors serving under them might be descended from me at this point. They come to the halls of the dead for advice. I tell them to drink, fight, and enjoy life while they have it.
My dream, my nightmare, seemed without end. I couldn't think, couldn't hope, couldn't fight to escape. There was only madness and pain. I believed I had built a home and an empire for my people, but in truth it was all a lie. You shattered my nightmare and slew Malachi. And for that, I have made no argument against your presence in this sacred place. Consider us even. I owe you nothing.
My fellow Karui never wanted to face the hard truth. If the Val wanted to wipe us out, they could have. They wouldn't have even needed to invade us, and our lauded might would have been useless. Their empire rose to power on the back of corruption, and those gems the Esmeri called the Tears of Magi. Corruption has a tendency to make Karui sick with a kind of blood fever. That is the true reason our way forbids the use of Tears of Magi. During my life, a handful of Karui tried to implant them in their flesh. They became filled with rage and unnatural strength, and we had to put them down, then burn their bodies. Their mere proximity made others sick too. So for every warrior that transgressed, 5 others gave their lives to protect the rest of us. To wipe us out, the Val could have simply spread the blood fever. My peacemaking, concessions, and treaties were born of that vulnerability, and I am glad I forged such a path. The Val Empire eventually succumbed to its own disease, and we remained.
The Mother of Death has pledged herself to a higher impulse. She seeks to perpetuate order by ensuring her forcing prophecies come to pass. There are only 12 futures in which Ray-class survives the coming darkness. All 12 involve the arrival of someone like yourself to this place. She foretold it, and you have found your way to us. That is a good sign that we are on one of the right paths. For now.
The Stiri Desert? The rivers and the forests are gone? Everything I knew has been erased by time. Everyone I mention turns out they're dead. I should just stop asking, but I have to know. The Izamites.
Fear that which remains awake when even the gods slumber. Chaos sees what Hinekora cannot. The myriad span of all that is yet to happen. Chaos takes selfish amusement in unlikelihoods and surprising events. Hinekora serves order, ensuring that what must happen, happens. 2 impulses, as unlike each other as any twins could ever be, locked in eternal conflict by their very nature.
I was quite young when the world ruptured. The moon turned crimson, fire rained from the sky, warriors went mad with blood fever, and the seas boiled. None of us knew what caused it, but the destruction came from the direction of San and the mountains near it. The madman must have gone too far. I had nightmares about that time for over a decade, until I finally traveled to the Isle of Shrikes and passed my test of adulthood. After that, I felt like I could handle anything.
Oh, the Esmeri did set up an empire. And they died too? What's going on up there? I suppose that golden colt they banished to Ariath is going to take over the world now. Ah! A plague wiped out Izmir? Of course! I've been down here thousands of years. Everything and everyone I've ever heard of, all dead. What about the Kautu? They had the absolute best wines. Feasts that went on for days, and the woman by wrong with a woman. Please tell me the Kautu are still thriving. Oh, the Vaal are dead. All of them? It was such a massive empire in my time. That's unsettling. Well, at least our friends the Asmeri can move on down from the mountains now and set up an empire of their own.
Hinekora does not see the future. That is the domain of chaos. The Mother of Death is gifted with the ability to see into the past. Not very clearly, but far deeper into the murk than mortals can comprehend. Before Rayclast, before the lake, before the primordial molten world, before the stars themselves. Time circled upon itself into infinity. She sees not what you will do, only what you did, and what you shall do again. Probably.
How do I...
The souls of our people were on the verge of madness, from isolation and ennui until the trials were devised. Before the slumber of the gods, Hinekora devised this mock warfare to engage us, and she succeeded. The halls of the dead have never been so full of life, so to speak. We know the games will eventually lose their amusement. But eternity is not forever. We need only entertain ourselves until time ends.
In this world, there are several routes to power. There is personal power, which was best exemplified by Kalm, personally besting the leaders of each tribe and uniting the Karawi with his own strength. There is communal power, which I try to exemplify. Cooperation and unity produce great works that last for thousands of years. Then there is faith, which we have yet to fully understand. Somehow, in a bygone era, it turned exceptional men and women into divine beings. I wonder, after all you have done, how many people believe in you? Stand still for a moment. You're always running all over the place. Ask yourself, how are you feeling? Are you all right? What is it that you truly need? Why aren't you pursuing it? The answers will not bring you peace, but it's a good first step. The Darfur tribe found its unique perspective in the ancient days. The forest depends upon the light given by Damakor. It also depends upon the rains brought by Valakor and the coolness brought by Rongokurai. At night, we hunted by the light given by Lanihua, and then Arohongui, her daughter. As you can see, right from the start, we realized that our existence is inextricably linked with all life, and theirs is linked with ours. Some tribes are too blind or arrogant to see this connection, and we try to pull them back from their excesses so that we may all thrive.
There is a flow to the world, to the sea, and to battle. I could lose myself for hours in a war, just running, fighting, and hewing down my enemies. I sense that you know this joy as well. I have nothing to teach you.
I wish I could see the
but you already
moon
know
from
what
here.
makes you happy. I wish I could smell the...
I have always been fascinated by the pursuit of knowledge. There is a pattern underneath everything we see. This pattern preceded even the gods. If something in the world around you works a certain way, it will always work that way. If it does not, something else is happening, and you must investigate. In life, I followed these questions to the heart of the pattern, and it took me to a vast lake. But I do not remember what I found there.
I was 13 when an eternal army attacked my tribe. They were in search of an ancient and powerful weapon from our myths, but we only had a single piece of it. Our chieftain was felled in his sleep. My father was as well. So, I took up his weapons, and I went about the work that needed to be done. Once they were dead, knowing that more would come if we had what they wanted, I entrusted Tesalio with our piece of that fabled spear. My tribe tried to put me in charge after that, but I refused the mantle. I just did what I thought was right, and they followed. Although, there was something to the myth of that spear's power. In the few moments I held just a piece of it, my hand was permanently scarred. As if I'd been burned by unseen and unfelt heat.
The answer's still no.
And there is a forgotten passage. A narrow but lengthy crack in the earth that leads to the main well. Though the dead just find themselves back here after a few minutes. Still, that few minutes on the ocean, seeing the living world again, glorious. I go up there whenever I lose my tranquility. Even in my earliest memories, I was training for battle. I do enjoy fighting, but not the way others around me did. To them, it was a savage contest of dominance and manhood. To me, there was an elegance to warfare. It had an ebb and flow, like the tide. It was a kind of dance. When they say I have an unconventional fighting style, it is because they do not realize that I am not fighting. I am dancing. I may feel the bite of an axe at any moment, so why not enjoy each sweep and each slash? They have their way. What I have, I call the flow.
The other tribes tell all sorts of stories about the end of time. Those are just fables. You see, the sun sets somewhere inside the world each night, but it also changes course from season to season. Eventually, it will stray too near and Rayclass will be burned away by its heat. However, the sun brings life as well. So once it returns to the sky, as it always does, there will be a burst of verdancy unlike we have never ever seen. If you think about it, it's the only end that makes sense.
Personally, I hope it will not be too long before the end. I have already existed 3 centuries longer than I was alive. Each tribe has its own belief about how the world will end. But you must understand these tales do not conflict. They are all correct. Our traditional expectations are not literal. Our Hatungo speaks of a time when all Ngākura Makoi will become so strong and so skilled at warfare that every man and woman will seek to become their own chieftain. Bloodlust will take over the people, and war will continue until only one warrior remains. That warrior will be the strongest that ever lived in all of history, and he will die soon after from his wounds. His fallen body will become the new world, and his blood, the rivers. His dying war cry will become the sky, and his fierce eyes will become the new sun and moon. Of course, this is not a literal tale. It is meant to give us a sense of place in a chaotic existence. There is immense value in this. Our traditions give us meaning and purpose. That is why I have dedicated my life and my death
we remain in this place?
to upholding them. Otherwise, we would be adrift and full of fear.
another go?
There are many fables
That was a
about
long
the
time
end of the
ago, Kahuna.
world, but those
Leave
are
it.
just metaphors. My tribe knows how it will really happen. The moon in the sky above follows a roughly oval path around us. Did you know that our world is actually shaped like the moon? Most believe that Rayclast is flat, because that is the obvious interpretation of what we see. However, in studying the moon, my tribe has discovered the truth. Also, we realize that the moon's path is not exact. Over many, many thousands of years, it is changing slightly toward us. We have come to understand that the world will end when the moon comes too close and falls upon us. This is not myth. This is knowledge. What else could possibly happen when two such titanic spheres of stone crash into each other?
The Hinekora tribe thinks time will simply stop one day. No. The Ngāmahu tribe believes the world will end not with some pathetic unraveling of the seasons, but with a tremendous eruption. Today is a good day and pour forth its lifeblood to burn away all life, both the mighty and the diseased, as it has done before. Then, the first of a new line of Karui will emerge from the molten caldera, as we did before. They will be different, maybe better in some sense, having learned from the wisdom our souls will carry forward. Theirs will be a savage new world to conquer all over again. I wish I could be there to see it. A glorious new challenge unlike any other. But my soul will be returned to the volcano with all the others here in the halls of the dead, to be melted and reforged into that entirely new Karui essence. That new line. I could wish for no better end.
Oh, you've been talking to the Hinekora tribe, have you? They're very dramatic with the end of time fable. The Rongokudai tribe has a much more dignified end in mind. When the world gets tired, it will be a quiet and calm slip into twilight. A night that goes on so long it blends into death itself. No more sunlight, no more plants, no more animals, no more people. Then, just as it always has, the sun will rise again on a new world. With sunlight comes plants, then animals, then people. It's obvious.
Have you ever had the feeling during a rising storm that the winds and rain might just keep getting stronger
Forget the
and never
rules.
ebb?
Let us revel in
That's
blood
how the
and
world will end.
madness.
A great storm will cover the land, and it will just keep raging harder and harder until everything is swept away. Then, as always happens after a big storm, life will burgeon anew. We see it all the time around us. Why would it be any other way?
The other tribes have it all wrong. We exist in a grand cycle, yes, but there will be no singular moment or event that marks some sort of disastrous end. You were a seedling. You grew into an infant, then a child, then an adult, and one day you will be old, and then you will die. But in every stage of your life, there were others just beginning theirs. When you die, there will be others just starting their lives. A tree falls, but that only clears the way for new seedlings. Trees die every season, but the forest remains. So it is with the Karui, and indeed
Do you
all
think you'll
peoples.
ever reach perfection with a bow?
So it is with the
Ahuana?
world itself.
Perfection is a goal,
Nothing
not a
ever
destination.
ends. The perspective
know
of
about
existence just
I'm perfect with my weapons.
shifts.
Of course you are.
One day time will end. Then time will begin again. All the pains of a long and weary existence will fall away from us, and we shall see the world with innocent eyes once more. You do not remember our previous meetings, but I do, by the grace of Hinekora's sight. She bears the burden of knowledge, so that you may live unencumbered by the inevitable
I wish I could see
despairs
the
of
moon from
age
here.
and wisdom.
I wish I could smell the sea. You'll have to ask everyone else what they think. True followers of Tesalio do not trouble themselves with thoughts of such a far-flung future. Each day that you can recline on your Waikoama, feel the waves beneath you, and take in the sun and the sky, that is a day to treasure. I do not have those anymore, but I console myself with the knowledge that my descendants do. Live for today, outsider. Yesterday, tomorrow, they do not exist. You are only ever here, now.
No matter how long it truly ends up being, existence always feels too short a season. Lucky are those who get to do it all over again once time begins anew. Fresh-faced, a weapon in hand, facing a savage and untamed land with limitless potential, youth, or something like it. Granted to the bold. That is what it means to be alive. The dead will always be here, forever unchanging, locked in a dance we cannot change.
They tell me I'm here until the end of time itself. When I ask how long that is, they all give me a different answer. I don't think any of them actually know. They console themselves with tales of endings and rebirths, but I think they're terrified of the most likely possibility. What if time never ends at all? What if we're here forever? That Rongokurai chieftain has been here thousands of years already.
Let
and
us
he's gone a bit
revel
off.
in blood and madness!
What happens when we've all been here for 10,000 years? 1,000,000 years? We'll be stark raving mad, and we'll never get out unless we unite and assault the walls of this prison directly.